Welcome to Biologics, Applications in Dentistry, plus the Principles in Delaying Aging. My name is Slater. I'm actually an orthopedic surgeon, and I have a keen interest in regenerative medicine and the applications of these new technologies in a multiple of the medical fields that we'll be reaching today. I'd like to firstly thank SciTech Central Dentistry. This is the 33rd Global Summit on Oral Health and Dentistry for the opportunity to present my paper today. I'm actually based in Sydney, Australia, and thankfully today we actually have a break from the wet weather, and so the Harbour Bridge actually will look like this tonight. The relevant disclaimers: most of the research that is being used today has come from Integrant, and it is being used in regen clinics as they get set up around the country. The future of medical treatment will involve the use of biologics for tissue enhancement, limb salvage, and the reversal of disease processes. There is currently a battle in the literature and clinical practice where proponents of regeneration, biologics, and use of stem cells, adjuvants, and synthetic substitutes are facing an uphill battle against the other established treatments. We understand that the forefront of organ salvage is perhaps in dentistry, where teeth have been salvaged for many years. The principles here are well established and accepted, and in this presentation we will characterize the currently available biologics as well as their use cases, in particular the osteointegrative and osteogenic natures of bone grafts, which have been used for many years, and there are well-established principles in their application. Additionally, the basis of chronic and life-ending illness is perhaps in aging. We hypothesize that all chronic disease could be the result of cell senility, and propose the first step in delaying the effects of aging will be in regeneration of single cell types, with the eventual extrapolation to the delay in the aging process. Biohacking, which is getting a lot of airplay, will play an important role in the future of regenerative medicine. Principles used in cellular regeneration will be the same principles used for the prevention of delay or in aging. The importance of single cell signaling, amount and the frequency and duration of the biologic treatment, and how that will eventually reverse degenerative disease, we will discuss and see where we're heading. Is aging reversible, delayable, or preventable? I would assert that there is no silver bullet to reverse aging, but there is a clear need for multiple adjuvants and promoters that will act together to improve cell health and reverse cell disease. In this slide by Carvalho, biologics are one of the key components in regenerative medicine. As a whole, they can be broken down into three main categories: cells, scaffolds, and signaling molecules. This presentation will focus on scaffolds, especially as they relate to bone grafting and use in the dentistry industry. Bone grafts are utilized as a filler and scaffold product to promote bone formation and the healing of bone defects. Autografts contain osteogenic cells and act as a mineral reservoir as well in order to encourage bone growth. Grafts can be composed of either natural or synthetic materials, natural meaning derived from human or animal cells. The varying types of graft will be covered later in the presentation. Currently, grafting is the only solution to reverse dental bone loss. Applications for bone grafts are varied, and most exist outside the dentistry industry. While bone grafts are used for dental implants, they are also commonly used in orthopaedic procedures, such as in joint fusion surgery, delayed unions, fractures, and bone defects. Bone grafting is a widely used and effective technique, and the statistics reflect this. In 2016, 50% of dental procedures used bone graft, and in 2017, 2.2 million procedures were reported to be performed globally. As such, this creates a massive market for dental bone grafts and substitute materials, which was estimated to be US $645.2 million in 2021. Not surprisingly, bone is the second most commonly implanted material after blood transfusion. Let's take a brief look into the history of bone graft utilization. Upon examination of two Krutas skulls, who inhabited an area close to Lake Sevan in Armenia around 2000 BC, Ajagran discovered that Krutas had used a piece of animal bone to repair a small skull defect. Regrowth was exhibited around the graft, indicating the success of the procedure. Additionally, the Egyptians were advanced in dental and bone surgery, as evidenced during the radiography of the mummy Usamontu. He was found to have a prosthesis around the left knee. Greek mythology also mentions implants and replacements of body parts, often using ivory. Whilst these accounts are important and interesting in understanding the history of grafting, the first scientific recording of a grafting procedure was in 1682, when Joby Meekerin restored a skull defect in a soldier using a cranial graft from a deceased dog. There are 4 key factors when considering how a bone graft material works. Osteogenesis refers to new bone formation via osteoblasts or progenitor cells present within the grafting material. Osteoinduction involves stimulation and differentiation of host mesenchymal stem cells for the formation of new bone. Osteoconduction occurs when the graft forms a scaffold to allow for the infiltration of cells and vasculature which aid in healing. Osseointegration is the capability of a graft substance to integrate with bone and form new host bone. Osteostimulative or osteopromotive properties can also be considered, which enhance osteointegration. With such an extensive history, it is no wonder that numerous materials have emerged as alternatives to natural bone grafts. To begin, natural bone graft materials are the most common utilized and include autografts, allografts, and xenografts. Phytogenic materials, such as algae and coral-based substitutes, are also emerging as other options. Synthetic bone substitute materials are the next most common category, consisting of a variety of substances. These include hydroxyapatite, calcium sulfates, polymers, and bioactive glasses, amongst others. Of these, composite substitutes have also been developed. Growth factor-based substitutes and additives with bone substitutes infused with living osteogenic cells are relatively new to the field, but have great potential. Let's talk about the advantages and disadvantages of the different products that are available. We go to autograft, which is from the patient's own body. It's very good for bony ingrowth, and we know the problems with rejection, but donor site morbidity is a big drawback from this technology. In particular with litigation, if a patient gets a problem from a donor site, they're not happy with that. Then we go to allografts, which are from the same species. We can make these customizable. There is problems, of course, with potential infection, possible rejection, and sometimes even religious reasons preclude this as a technology. Xenograft, which is from a different species, is very cost-effective compared to autograft, but potential infection and stringent processing makes it have a variable initial strength. Growth factors which are emerging, which can be added into the bone graft materials, which then act as a carrier, are really emerging as a very positive additional effect that we could put into the grafts. Ceramics are emerging as another technology, and where they fit in, we'll see in the future. Taking a closer look at synthetic materials, hydroxyapatite is a relatively new bone graft substitute medium that has been used in many successful procedures. Hydroxyapatite comprises about 50% human bone and 70 to 80% of dentine and enamel by weight, and is thus an excellent candidate for use in bone repair. Being synthetic, it removes the risk of pathogen transmission and infection associated with allografts and xenografts. Due to its structure, once healed, hydroxyapatite can be indistinguishable from the autologous graft. Hydroxyapatite and coralline hydroxyapatite, sourced from renewable corals, are being studied as a carrier for many other compounds, including growth factors and anti-infectives. Because of an inherent mechanical weakness, hydroxyapatite is suited for low-load applications, and they're very useful in maxillofacial applications. A coralline hydroxyapatite bone graft product now available on the market is grafted by Integrin. Like other synthetic bone grafts, it acts as a scaffold for bone ingrowth and cell infiltration. its wide pores or macroporosity, allow for adhesion, proliferation, and differentiation of osteoprogenitor cells, as well as revascularization and subsequent ingrowth of new bone. Grafted demonstrates high osteotic conductivity and low reabsorption, as well as promotion of on, in, and through growth of host bone. This slide shows an X-ray of a non-contained mandibular defect. It's been grafted with grafted product, the hydroxyapatite material, and you see after 90 days there is good ingrowth of bone and resolution of the non-contained defect. When considering regenerative medicine options that we have available presently, it perhaps is best to step back and look at three key aspects of the aging process. In this, let's look at senility, senescence, and apoptosis, and how these can ultimately lead to disease processes and death of the organism. On the next slide, let's talk about cellular regeneration. If we look at this as a single entity, could this lead to the delay of aging? The basic of chronic and life-ending disease is largely age-related. We look at most deaths are a result of chronic disease processes such as heart failure. We propose the first step in delaying the effects of aging will be in the principles that we learn in regeneration of a single cell. These can perhaps be extrapolated then to the whole organism and eventually lead to an extension in the length of life and also the quality of life. That concludes this presentation on a look at the regenerative technologies that are currently available. I'd like to thank SciTech for the opportunity to present this paper today and wish you all the best in your practices and future endeavors. Thanks again.